Hi, my name is Steve Murphy, and this is the Insider Exclusive TV show. Today, we have a special presentation on police misconduct at the Hawthorne Police Department and at the LAPD. Stay tuned. I'm very pleased to have with me today one of America's foremost civil rights lawyers, Gary Casselman, of the law firm of Gary Casselman. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Steve.
When we introduced the show, we were talking about a particular case that's going on right now with the Manhattan Beach, California, and the Hawthorne, California Police Departments. And it's a case that involves an individual who was arrested and subsequently beaten on camera, right?
Yes, he was there for the booking process, and they decided that they didn't like the way that he was looking at the camera, and they wanted him to do something different. And one of them went over and put their hands on him, and next thing you know, he's shoved to the ground, and they're kicking and beating him, and he ends up on the floor, unmoving, and eventually he's lifted up or brought away, and there's somebody cleaning the blood off the floor, and he ends up with a broken jaw.
Do you think this is, as you called before the show, police gone wild? Is that what's happening here? I mean, they're just abusing their power, or what?
Well, it happens all the time in all kinds of professions and jobs, but it's more violent when it happens with the police.
I just want to make this real clear. For the most part, law enforcement does an excellent job. There are some egregious forms of conduct by some individuals, which lawyers like yourself step in and correct?
Right. I don't get involved in a case if I think the police have done their jobs properly and fairly.
The client you represent is a gentleman by the name of Scott Tierney, correct?
Yes.
Let's do this. Let's bring Scott in right now, and then after we talk with him, I understand you handle some other civil rights cases. We'll talk about them. But let's get Scott right now.
Absolutely.
I am pleased to have with me the most unfortunate person that was in that video, Scott Tierney. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Tell us about that night. Where did it all go wrong?
I'm not sure. It seemed like he didn't think I was cooperating properly or looking into the right location.
To take a picture?
Yes.
And I saw, as we all saw in the video, that police officer came over to you.
Yeah, he said to me, well, if you're not going to look where I'm telling you, I'm going to force you to do it. And,
those were his words?
Yes.
Okay, and what did he do to
so
force
he
you?
Came around behind me, went to grab my head, and I turned around and said, what are you doing? And then from there, it was, don't remember too much. I just from watching the video, I could just see they were just, beating me up. And
there was another officer, what was it, a Hawthorne police officer, jumped in and...
Yeah, he's the actual one that actually broke my jaw. Because when the first guy took me down, he was hitting me, but then I just see...
Where were they hitting you?
Everywhere, in the back of the head.
Punching, were you hitting them?
No, I was basically curled up, just...
And they just kept hitting you?
Yeah.
And then what did this other officer do to break your jaw?
Well, I can just see out of the corner of my eye, just seeing his, foot coming towards my face. And once that impacts...
You can see a knee. The fellow's driving his knee. The fellow that's on the left towards the back of the screen is using his knee and his fists.
So the impact of that knee broke your jaw?
Yeah.
Did you feel it was broken right away?
Oh, yeah, I knew. I thought it,
Which side of your face there?
Yeah, it was inside.
Really?
I thought it was just,
Was it sharp pain then?
Oh, yeah. I've never felt anything like that before.
We saw towards the end of the video, there was a lot of blood. You were bleeding out of the mouth?
Yeah, I was bleeding, pretty good. I think that's what finally stopped them after they seen the blood. I mean, they slowed down a little bit.
Right, but when we watched in the video, more people were coming over and throwing their punches in too. Were they talking at all? Did anybody ever say, why are we hitting this guy?
No, I didn't hear any conversation going on.
Did they say anything to you after, as we see you, they're lifting you off the floor? Did they say anything to you then?
I was pretty out of it at that point. I don't recall any conversation.
And they brought you to a cell?
Yes.
You asked for help?
Yeah, at that point I was just wondering what kind of medical attention I could get. And, you know, I felt like several hours later, but it could have been minutes that, you know, they eventually took me to a medical center.
I'm glad you're better. I really am. And thanks for being on the show.
All right, thank you.
All right, we'll see what happens with your case. Gary, thanks for bringing Scott here. It's a tragic story, and I hope you win that case well. You've been involved with some other police misconduct cases, and one of them was the Castleman versus the city of Los Angeles, wasn't it?
Very interesting case.
Tell us about it.
That was a fella who took his daughter to the baseball game. He was a Dodger fan. This was in 2003. While my client was at the baseball game, while Juan was at the baseball game, there was a murder going down in Sun Valley. It was a gang-related murder. And because of a statement by a tipster who was trying to cover for the gang members who did it, my client was fingered, and LAPD never investigated, even though after he was arrested, he told them he was at the game and they didn't check it out at all. And they also had tape of the person calling for the hit 6 months before the murder happened, and they claimed never to have listened to it before the murder. My client told his defense attorney there was somebody there with a camera, and he didn't know what it was. And so the attorney, Todd Melnick, went to the Dodger organization and looked on the films for the Jumbotron. It wasn't there. And he went through the different things until he was told that Curb Your Enthusiasm HBO was there that day, and went to Larry David and asked, and they said, well, we don't think we got anything, but you're welcome to look. And he was sitting in the control room, and after about 5-10 minutes, he screamed, there he is.
And obviously, as we are watching it right here, we can see it's a clear case that he's not where the police thought he was, right?
Correct.
So you won that case.
We settled it.
Settled it.
Right before trial.
There is another case that you worked on, and I believe you provided information. It's the Carnell Carnegie case. Is that correct?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that case.
Mr. Carnegie was at a park, a Jim Gilliam Park.
Yes.
It was August 20 of 2004. He was asked to give somebody a ride home in somebody else's car. On the video, you see the police back up to allow him to drive out of the parking lot. And then as they leave the parking area, they turn on their emergency lights and pull him over. And they later explained and put in their report they pulled him over because he had no front license plate on the car. Mm-hmm. However, the license plate was on the front dash, and he pointed that out to the police and was a bit irate about it because he felt that they were harassing him. And he was identified as a gang member, so perhaps they felt that they could do what they wanted. In any event, the video shows an officer reaching for him, and he pulls away. And the next thing you know, the camera's kind of herky-jerky because the person didn't keep it on the action, but he's on the ground. And at one point, he's being held there by another officer, and his head is on the ground, and he's being smashed in the side of the head by a 260-pound officer.
Right in the head.
Right in the head.
I want to thank you very much for being on the show. It's been a pleasure having you. I hope to have you back again, and I hope Scott's case works out and all the other ones you work out, because that video is one of the worst forms of police misconduct I've ever seen in my life. And thank God you were able to get it, okay? So thank you. Hand out your phone number again so people can call you.
310
yes.
390 4406.
Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve.
I want to thank you very much for watching our show. You can catch more of these shows at www.insiderexclusive.com. Come back again.